Okay.
Hi, everybody. Thank you for joining us today. We're going to do a live stream with you guys to talk a little bit about what's going on with buyers and what's going on just in the market. So we're going to do this weekly from now on, and you're going to get us to give you kind of the highlights of what we're seeing and the changes. And since things are changing so quickly, we thought weekly was the appropriate time frame, right?
Yeah. We've been giving other weekly updates to certain real estate companies, so we decided to share with everybody our expertise.
All right, so let's get into this just a little bit. We're going to talk today strictly about buyers, and I think there's three things that we really wanted to highlight on. So right now, number one, the talking point you can use with your clients is this is the time for a deal, right? So I think the way that we want to articulate this and kind of spell this out to our clients is we haven't seen a true fall seasonal market since like maybe 2014, 2012 to 2014. And it really has felt like finally winter is coming, right? Like winter is here and the buyers have pulled back and sellers are sitting on the market. So the fact that we're getting a 98% percentage list to sale price really tells us that we're in a real fall market. It's way more like it was in 2018 or something like that, pre-pandemic. But the thing that none of this is taking account for is how many times are we seeing like seller concessions that don't go into this, right? So I mean, what does that look like?
Lots of seller concessions right now, and I would love to see what percentage of a report of how many are getting seller concessions. But I know from my experience, lots of the buyers are taking advantage, getting price cuts, seller concessions, and it's a great time to be a buyer right now.
Yeah, for sure. What about this? Talk to us a little bit about interest rates.
So interest rates, we got the big inflation report coming out for the first time this year, showing inflation coming down in November. We saw a really great improvement last month, and we've seen a pretty slow improvement since that report came out. So here's a national average for interest rates. We're around 6.5 for 30-year fixed. I would say my experience, I've gotten a few buyers who are in the low sixes, and I even got to quote a 5.99.
Which is so exciting,
yes,
right?
This week.
Especially after scaring all of us 2 months ago saying the interest rates were 7%.
Right. And so we can take a look at the next screen where it shows we get to see the slow up means good for interest rates, down means bad. And you can see that big report coming out middle of November, that big green mark showing how we had a big improvement and then a slow improvement since then. And we're going to get another inflation report coming out. We're hoping next Tuesday that the report's going to come out, and all the experts are agreeing that the report is going to show another positive return, and hopefully we'll see interest rates get a little bit better. So my advice would be, if you're working with a lender, if you have a buyer who's working for a lender with a lender, check on their rate renegotiation policy. We've been in a very locking position for a long time, and in this kind of environment, we're not locking. And if you have a 30-day contract, there's room, from when we go under contract to when we close, especially in December with the inflation report coming out, there's room that we could see an improvement, and the client's going to want a better interest rate. So
yeah, the last thing you really want to do is your client switching lenders on you halfway through the deal. It's not going to make it easy for any of us.
No, it's not going to make it easy for the agent, not make it easy for the buyer. So check and see with your lender to see what the rate renegotiation policy is.
All right, so the other part of this is way less competition than we've ever seen before. So I think this is your talking point number 2, where you want to talk the most about just how important it is to be really articulate in the fact that there's not really anyone out there shopping right now. And it's always an awesome time to buy a house in November, December. But here we are in December, and it doesn't really feel like a lot of people are putting stuff together. Plus, the negotiations in this is amazing. I mean, I can't tell you how many deals keep coming in the door, and they're contingent, and there's seller credits, and there's all kinds of stuff. So the fact that there's not very many people looking is really giving them a huge advantage, right? When they're not going to get that in the spring, because there will be more buyers.
There will be more buyers. And the second we start getting interest rates coming down, the competition is going to go way up. And with my experience with my buyers right now, it's those little tiny details that are becoming sticking points that we couldn't get away with earlier this year. We're talking about solar panels and solar leases and things like that that are really hanging people up, and really the buyer's in the driver's seat. And
that hasn't happened for so long.
Right. I'm also getting some feedback from agents where, you know how you can set it in showtime showing no overlapping showings. So just a little tidbit out there. If you say no overlapping showings, you can kind of see how many showings are happening on the house that your buyer's interested in. And I would say there's not a lot going on. And so if your client's interested in a property, you know that there's not a lot of competition out there, and the buyers get to really write the rules if there's a house on the market and the seller's wanting to sell.
Yeah, this is a really exciting time for buyers. I can't tell you how many times I tell people, get out there as a buyer and, shop in the fall, especially like your first time home buyers or those people who are really price sensitive, right? Or your client, they're always looking for a deal and they're trying to get me to like go help them, but I don't even want to show them a house, right? Well, now you can absolutely show them a house. They can go in and feel like they're getting a deal because they really have been. And the reason that they can do that is this is data from Showing Time for the state of Colorado. It's really the best we can do, as much as we like local data. At least it's timely. Like this is timely to this week. But it's really showing us just how far showings are down. So in the data, we've been seeing the fact that pendings are down by about 30% over last year, which shouldn't really surprise anyone. The fact that it's only down 30% is really kind of a miracle. Mm-hmm. But showings are down 50%. So what that tells me is that every showing that's taking place is actually a far more motivated seller or buyer. Right. The buyers are so much more motivated to close because the people out there are actually shopping to purchase a home rather than, I don't know, I want to see 7 houses, or let's just go see what's available, right? Like there's not really much of that going on.
Lose.
Yeah, no looky-loos, which is a good sign. And as you can see from now through the end of the year, showing traffic is going to really fall off every single day from here till the end. You saw it in Thanksgiving. Look how much smaller that dip was than usual. What that means is we're already almost to as low as we could get. So people that usually take a break for the holidays, right? We really haven't seen as much of that as normal because there's not really that many people out shopping.
Right. And that's something to prepare your sellers for. We're going to do a presentation next week about what to talk about with the sellers. But this is a really important graphic. You need to be preparing your sellers, and if they want to shop the week of Christmas or after Christmas, hey, maybe your buyers can get an even better deal.
Yeah, I actually had a client years ago that she was like this wise old real estate investor, and she goes, I buy myself a Christmas house every year. It's the best week of the year to shop.
It's the best. I agree with that.
Is, right?
100%.
I wish I had the ability to do that. That would be amazing.
Right.
All right, so let's take a look at the last one we wanted to talk about today. And I think this is your third talking point right now. There's more inventory than there's been on the market in a very long time. So you actually get the ability to go look, right? So go push your buyers off the fence and be like, get off the couch and come shop over the holidays instead, right? We can negotiate, we can write the contract as long as you want. Who cares if you have to break a lease? Because now you might actually be able to go shop for your dream home instead of just like being shoved into a home like they were before.
Right. And, with the buyers in the driver's seat, it's really nice because we're getting lots of seller concessions. And we talked about this a little bit before this aired, but the buy down is a big topic right now. If you have some questions about the buy down, reach out to me, give me a call. But I had a deal right now under contract. It was listed at $775. We got them down to $730 with a $30,000 concession.
Right.
So they're getting the house for around $700, and the $30,000 concession is going to do a 3-2-1 buy down, and their top rate, their permanent rate, is 6.125, and that means their intro rate is going to be 3% lower than that, 3.125,
which is awesome.
Yeah. So, if once we have more competition and the rates come down a little bit, those buy downs are probably not going to be a thing, because they're going to choose, the seller has to give a concession anywhere from 10 to 30 grand on it. And once there's more competition, they're going to take the offer that doesn't have the concession in it.
You know what really makes me happy about these buy downs? It really allows the seller to save face and to retain the integrity of the market and the process.
Totally.
Because if your neighborhood is pricing at $750 and you're the person who goes and sells for $700 and you just pissed off all your neighborhoods, that doesn't make anyone feel good. But when you sell for $730, like, oh, not as big of a deal. Then when we all try to go get stuff appraised in the springtime, it won't be as big of a deal either.
Right.
So these seller concessions are serving multiple purposes here.
Yeah. My clients are saving $900 a month for their first year.
It's amazing.
And then $600 a month for their second, $300 a month for their third. And when we compared that to from a temporary buy down to a permanent buy down, they're getting 3.125 for the first year, 4.125 for the second. The permanent buy down came out to about 5.25.
Which honestly, maybe they refinance to that next year anyway.
Yeah,
it's hard to say.
You know, if they're conservative, you can use that 30 grand for a permanent buy down.
Yeah, that'll be great, especially if they can do that before the 3 years are up, right? Then there's money left on the table for that refi.
Mm-hmm.
This is like the last slide we wanted to talk a little bit about because it's just active units in the marketplace. We are in December, right?
Mm-hmm.
And what that means is that people that got frustrated because they've had a house in the market, they didn't get the price they want, they're pulling things off the market, right?
Yeah.
It's not that there's so many buyers in the fall that like we're just eating away at the inventory levels, right? So a lot of these are going to get relisted in the springtime. I think that's the one thing we need to understand is even though it's a shrinking inventory fall, I mean, that's just seasonality, right? We're still in that rising inventory environment because there's more sellers than buyers consistently every month. People might just be frustrated and pull it back for the holidays and relist and maybe reprice in the springtime.
Mm-hmm.
So this is a good sign for buyers. And it really kind of just reiterates those same 3 points where get out there, get off the fence, get those buyers to start talking. And it really has to come from us, right? It has to come from us within the industry to give them accurate information. I can't tell you how much I just combat the media and just all of the nonsense that's occurring there.
Yeah. And, you know, I think there's a lot of power in the conversations that we're having. When somebody asks you how the market's doing, my initial reaction is, oh my gosh, it's awful because I'm used to doing more business. But the market is not awful. And so when we're talking about with our friends and our family, we need to have a positive conversation like my buyers who are getting, you know, a $75,000 haircut on the house. That's a much better conversation to have, giving them hope and giving them actual deals that are happening. Because yeah, we might not love it, but for a buyer, you need to create the narrative that there is really opportunity to be had right now. I don't know if we can say as much for sellers, so tune in next week for us to talk about sellers, and then the week after we're going to talk about investors. And we've got a lot of data to support that as well.
Yeah, so we'll talk same time, same place every single week. You'll hear from us the latest and greatest news. And next week, we should actually have a lot of really interesting information on like what's going on with CPI.
Yes.
And with any luck, maybe we'll hear from the Fed before our meeting, but I don't think we will. It's probably later.
Yeah, it's going to be on the 14th is when their meeting starts. So we probably won't hear, but the expectation right now, Jerome Powell said that we're likely going to see a 0.5% increase, but he did give a lot of illusion that we are going to stop seeing the Fed rate hikes because we're getting the inflation. So if you have a buyer who is really concerned about the rate hikes and they want to get locked before, you got to really rope them in and educate them.
Right. This is an interesting time because this week of the rate changes, the markets are doing what the markets think they need to do to pad themselves. Right. So we really need to tell them to be patient for that.
Right. And also it doesn't translate. People want to call me and freak out and say
rates are going up a 0.5 point.
Yeah, lock me before that rate changes.
Right.
So if you hear that, you need to get in front of that conversation. Because if anything, the Fed rate hike is going to be positive for mortgage interest rates.
Right.
Mortgage interest rates do not follow the Fed rate hike. They follow the inflation.
Plus, all of your lenders out there, like the big lenders, like who's basically selling the mortgages, they've already padded in for this. Right. Like it's already adjusted for. So we definitely need to cool everyone off just a little bit and bring some rationale to it. So that's what we're hoping to do here.
Yep.
All right. Well, thank you for joining us. We'll be here every week. So we'll see you next time.